The corporate life just really wasn't for me at all. I don't like working for anybody else. I can't do this anymore. My mom basically just said to me, Nick, I make nougat. You like the nougat that we make? Why don't you go and try and start a business selling the product? I think back, and still today, there's many moments where you're like, why am I actually doing this? Pain, uncertainty, constant work. Doesn't stop. You've got to be on the calls all day, every day, thinking about what's new, innovating. It's taken 10 years of hard work, lots of ups, lots of downs to get the business to a level now where I think, there's a bit of an inflection point for us.
Nick, before 1701 existed, what did your life look like?
Sure, my life was varsity. If I think back to before the inception of 1701, it was varsity. It was lots of golf coming out of school, the thought of becoming a professional golfer. And after about a year coming out of school, I realized that this golf route is not going to be for me, and it's a little bit more challenging than what I would have thought. And that was pretty much my my life prior to 1701. Lots of confusion, no direction at all. And then one day, the idea of 1701 came to life back in 2015. I'd actually been working for a corporate in Sandton for a year, and the corporate life just really wasn't for me at all. After being there for, I think, 3 or 4 months, I'd go home to my mom and dad and just say, like, I don't like working for anybody else. I can't do this anymore. And that's when my mom basically just said to me, Nick, I make nougat. You like the nougat that we make? Why don't you go and try and start a business selling the product? And that's where 1701 first started. So it came out of a bit of difficulty and not enjoying myself, and it sort of aligned me in a direction that I'm so grateful for today.
And your mom was a cordon bleu chef as well, is that right?
Yeah, exactly. So cordon bleu trained chef. I've been so lucky to grow up in a home where there's just been abundance of so much amazing food, especially the confectionery stuff. I refer to my mom as the confectionery queen. Everything that she does, whether it's baking cakes, creme brulee, whatever it might be, is just is always just at another level. So I've been very fortunate to grow up around that. So I've got a big love for food, especially sweet stuff. Being around nougat all the time, I obviously eat my product, and you obviously got to make sure that you don't eat too much of it, otherwise the love handles tend to grow quite quickly.
And the name 1701, where did that originate from?
Yeah, so 1701 is the year that nougat was believed to have been founded in the small town of Montélimar in France. And I haven't been there before. It's on the list to go and definitely visit. I think I've actually driven past it many years ago. So that's where the name came from. So it's quite an interesting brand name for us, and I think it's really put us in a very fortunate position in the fact that you don't often get brands that are numbers. So immediately just 1701 stands out a little bit more from the crowd. I think if it was called Nick's Nougat, it would be a little bit like, okay. Having 1701 definitely was a good decision on my behalf. I suppose I did choose the name. A bit of an interesting story around the name development. My uncle's in the advertising industry, a guy called Leon. He's worked for all the big agencies around the world. And while I was working at that corporate and deciding that I want to go and try and, sell this product, I reached out to him and I said, Leon, I want to start this nougat brand. Do you have any advice on who I can maybe chat to? And he said, first thing you need to do is obviously go and look at developing a name. So he put me in touch with a lady called Lynette, who went and assisted me with the name development. She's obviously a copywriter. And that's sort of where the journey started. And she came back with, I think, 30 odd names, French names, and like a whole lot of interesting stuff. And obviously nougat being a sort of a French product. You also get Italian nougat, you get Spanish nougat. But my mom's recipes were always based around the French recipe and how that's produced. So we came up with the name 1701, funneled it down. And so it's quite interesting in the fact that I can actually go and tell a story using just the name of the brand, being the fact that nougat was founded in the year 1701.
This podcast has been a dream come true, and I need your help in order to grow the show. If you could do the smallest favor for me, it will be easier than making a cup of coffee. Please go and hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much. And I'm sure, going from golf, then to corporate, now starting your own thing, that must have been very new to you, and there must have been quite a few unexpected challenges in the beginning.
For sure. I mean, I'll never forget, we had a big industrial mixer in my mom's kitchen, and we used to cut the nougat. Also, maybe just for the listeners to understand how nougat is produced, but it's just sugar syrup that gets made with sugar, honey, and glucose, and that gets heated to a specific temperature. And once it hits the specific temperature, you add it to beaten egg whites. So it cooks the egg whites into like that sticky nougat base mixture, and then to add to that, you would add your macadamia nuts and your almonds, or whatever inclusions would go into the product. But yeah, the difficulties around nougat, it's sensitive to humidity, and getting set up in the kitchen at home was already a struggle. We didn't have a cutting machine. I was using a CNA sort of paper guillotine. Product was hand wrapped. We're still hand wrapping today, but we've got a little bit more automation on the cutting front. But yeah, lots and lots of challenges. You don't really know what you're doing. You're not making any money. You're not taking a salary out of the business. It took a while before I could take a salary out of the business. But yeah, lots of sacrifice. But I'll never forget the words that my dad said to me. He said, "Nick, you have no kids, no responsibilities at all. You have a roof over your head, and your mom and dad can put food on your table at night." And he said, give this a go. So I stayed at home until I was 29. A lot of friends of mine would be, have left home straight after school, gone to varsity, and never gone back home. But I lived at home with my parents for a long time, and thankfully, it was a great environment to be all the time. Obviously, a little bit difficult being at home with mom and dad, and you bump heads sort of the older you get.
Yes.
But yeah, overall, I had a good time being at home.
And sacrifice. So obviously your parents also made a lot of sacrifice to get you into golf and to let you also, just go with the nougat business and run with it. What kind of sacrifices did you now have to make?
Yeah, I mean, sacrifices from my side would be, when my friends are inviting me on a Friday night to go and, have a drink, or go and, have a dinner, I would often be in a position where I would have to work on a Saturday morning. I'll never forget, the first probably first 5 years of running 1701, I think I worked probably every single Saturday and Sunday, sitting in front of a laptop, thinking about things, looking at packaging suppliers, trying to find inspiration for certain things, just trying to understand the space, and obviously just trying to work out how to improve. So there's a lot of sacrifice on that front, and the true friends have stuck with me through those times, and I think there's been a lot of people that I've grown apart from quite quickly, and that's the way life goes. So it was a lot of sacrifice on that front from a social sort of perspective, and you just I suppose your time with your family, trying to find a girlfriend back in the day, even though I suppose I did a fairly decent job of that. Had a few girlfriends in my time, now married and settled down, so very happy with life at the moment.
So they often speak about entrepreneurs and very successful people speak about that lonely chapter. What was that like, and how long did that last for?
Yeah, I mean, I think about when I obviously started off in the kitchen at home, it was myself, and there was one lady who assisted me. But you don't really have too many people that you can go and bounce the ideas off. I mean, if I think to people who are in a corporate environment, are part of a team, you at least have that element of, camaraderie and being together and being able to assist each other. I think for me, I was quite lucky in the fact that I have grown up in a family of entrepreneurs. My mom ran a very successful handmade framing business back in the day, and she had, I think, about 40 or 50 people who worked for her exporting handmade picture frames. My dad's a lawyer, and he started his own business, I think, 35 years ago. Um, but both parents have been very entrepreneurial. So for me, I think it wasn't as lonely as I suppose some other people who might not have the privilege of having parents who've sort of walked that path before. So yeah, I at least was in a position where I don't think it was as lonely as what it could have been. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think back and I still today there's many moments where you're like, why am I actually doing this? And I think that crosses most entrepreneurs' minds many times a week, many times a day, possibly. And it's just it's life. It's got its ups, its downs. Um, Quite interesting. I started listening to there's a Netflix documentary with Jonah Hill. It's called Stutz. I don't know if you've ever heard of it before. But Jonah Hill interviews his psychologist instead of the psychologist sort of asking Jonah Hill questions.
Wow,
So it is
okay.
based around his psychologist. And this very sweet old man, Stutz is what his nickname was. But he mentioned three things which have stuck with me, and I think it's life: pain, uncertainty, and constant work. Those are the three things that encapsulate life. Without any pain, any uncertainty, um, and what was the last point? Pain, uncertainty, and the constant work. Life actually has no meaning. And for me, business is exactly that. There's going to be days where your deals don't go through. You're hoping to get some business from somebody and they say, no, they're not going ahead. There's uncertainty. You're not sure whether your business is going to close down tomorrow or if somebody's going to, buy a box of your product and there's going to be something wrong with it and all of a sudden your business falls down. And it requires constant work. It doesn't stop. You've got to be on the pulse all day, every day, thinking about what's new, innovating. And if you don't innovate, you're going to fall behind, and your business is going to decline most probably. So yeah, for me, those three things are something that has always stuck with me. And in moments when I'm feeling like, damn, why am I doing this? Always just got to think back to those three things.
Sure.
Yeah, pain, uncertainty, constant work.
And that gives you meaning today.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, it's been a very interesting journey. The business is now 10 years old. Also some interesting advice. I'm giving advice, but just some sort of things that have stuck with me as an entrepreneur. My dad had a client called Johan, who had a skincare business that he sold for quite a bit of money back in the day. And my dad said, or actually when I'd started the business and I was selling it like in a cellophane packet with a sticker on the front and a ribbon at the top, the nougat, he said, Nick, let's speak to Johan and see if there's any advice that he can give you. And sat down with him for half an hour. And one of the things that he sort of had to say, which has stuck with me, is the fact that brands take 10 years to build, businesses take 10 years to build before they get anywhere. And for me, I feel like that is so true. It's taken 10 years of hard work, lots of ups, lots of downs, to get the business to a level now where I think, there's a bit of an inflection point for us. And I don't know what the future is going to look like, but it's quite exciting with some of the stuff that we do have on the horizon. But yeah, it takes 10 years.
Wow.
That's definitely something which has stuck with me.
And that's tough to think about, because when you first start a business, maybe in my head the idea is after a few years you're already starting to make good money. 10 years is a long time.
It is.
And it requires a lot of patience.
For sure.
And dealing with that self-doubt in your mind where you're saying each week, sometimes even each day, you're going, should I pack it up?
Yeah, no, exactly. And I mean, the patience stuff is something that I suppose it's such an important tool to be able to have as a human being, to be patient. And I'm actually quite impatient. As a person, something pops into my head and I got to do it like right now. And the older I've got, and the more experience I've had doing business, It's a tool that I've had to try and develop as much as possible. And still to this day, I really do struggle with it. The need to act right now is always something that I feel I have to always, try and do, but I have to try and tame that voice and that feeling of, damn, I got to do this right now.
But that probably helps you in a way in business, because I think a lot of people think about an idea and then they just park it off.
Yes, yes.
And the people that act on those ideas, and even though it's quite intense and a little bit crazy, the ones that get shit done,
Yes.
they're the
Sure.
ones that end up being successful.
No, you're right. You are very, very right. I think a lot of people will sit back and, to your point, sort of sit there, dwell, think, know that it's probably something that they need to try, but they don't ever end up doing it, or they take too long to do it, and somebody else does it before them. So yeah, I agree. I think it has played an important part of the business development, having sort of that impulsive nature. I mean, recently, last year, we had a meeting with a gentleman who was just giving us sort of some business advice, almost like a sort of a mentor sort of ship role. And I've always, as a business and a brand, wanted to be the super, super premium. If I think I've always said that we're trying to be the Louis Vuitton of nougat. And still to this day, that is what we stand for from a brand perspective.
I think what I've figured out from a lot of entrepreneurs that I've had on the podcast is they all said that in the beginning, they tried to do it all on their own.
Yeah.
And they did it for years. And all of a sudden, they got to a point where the growth wasn't really there and they just ended up exhausted.
Yeah.
Did you ever run into a situation like that?
Yeah, I think there's times where you look at things and you're like, we're not really going anywhere with this. And I think for the first 6 years, it was just slog. And like, you just got to have that sort of belief and the endurance as an entrepreneur to just keep going, keep slogging away. Because I think a lot of people, I suppose, after 3, 4, 5 years of running a business, they're like, oh no, I was expecting to be there, but I'm not there. So this is not working out. I'm going to call it a day. But if you read a lot of, if you read some books about entrepreneurs, it can take 20, 30 years to become an overnight success. But it's slog, and it's, why am I doing this? And it's, uphill the whole time. And eventually, once you push through, these things can potentially work out. Like, I don't know tomorrow if 1701 could potentially fall down. It's always a worry that I have in my head as an entrepreneur and a business owner, but you just got to focus on all the little small things that you do on a daily basis and make sure you do those right. And then, you just got to keep going, I suppose. I mean, as simple as that sounds.
But surely outsourcing helps, because we can't be good at everything. I know that admin tasks eat me alive. I absolutely hate it. And I think as a business owner, you've got to know what your strengths are and your weaknesses are. But I feel like you can't work on your strengths and your weaknesses at the same time.
Yeah, no, definitely not. I think, just very, very, very difficult to try and work out, what the right thing is to try and do all the time. And it's the way things go with doing your own thing, unfortunately. These things take time, and it's a difficult road, but it can be very rewarding. And you just got to keep going.
What has been the most rewarding part so far?
Yeah, I think for me, probably moving out of, I would say, a kitchen at home into a facility like we got at the moment. So for a little bit of background, we have our factory facility set up in Nelspruit. My business partners are macadamia farmers, and our factory is on their farm. But we've got a really beautiful factory set up. We BRCGS internationally food safe compliant, and it's basically like a science lab walking into our factory. But if I think back to 2015, being 24, the thought of even having a facility like we have now is like so far fetched, and I feel like that's been a really big achievement for us. I think also just from a personal growth perspective, I've watched, you always look back and you're like, damn, at 24, this is the way I was, this is what I was thinking. And now at 34, you just appreciate the journey that you've been on. Um, and yeah, I think sure we've made some amazing strides with some of our overseas business in the UK. We've also supply a few stores in the Middle East, in Australia, and for us being recognized and appreciated by an overseas market, I think that also really feels very good. So with those sort of things that do happen to come across come into our path, that does feel very rewarding, knowing that we are getting that. Yes, you guys are doing a good job from overseas and international people, so that feels good.
And I'm sure it's tough to differentiate when you're selling something that, you got a lot of competitors also selling nougat.
Yes,
It's quite tough to
it is.
break out.
It is for sure, and I think you got to stick to your values as a brand and a business. And I just think of, if I sort of give the example of the differentiators between the 1701 and some of the other big commercial brands in South Africa, the storytelling piece about our business, where we started, our families, it's our farm down in Nelspruit. So all of the honey that goes into our product is harvested on our farm. We got over 1,000 beehives on the farm, and the honey goes into the product. So, and that's really a distinct flavor that you pick up in our product. Our nougat is also not as sweet as a lot of the other producers of nougat in South Africa. And something that we also put a lot of emphasis and time into is the brand experience. It's the packaging. It's the way that our ribbons are tied on our boxes. If I think from an online store perspective, when our boxes, or you order a hat box from us, because we also do these beautiful hat boxes with champagnes and biscuits and whiskies. But when that box arrives at your front door, even just the cardboard box that arrives in, that's where your 1701 experience starts. So if you've had a great experience buying online and it's been a smooth, process online all the way through to checkout and payment, and all of the communication all the way, literally to the box arriving at your front door, that cardboard box needs to have tape beautifully done on the sides. So it's all about the attention to detail, and being a luxury brand, the touch points for us are something that we never overlook and will never compromise on at all.
Sounds like you got to be very intentional.
Correct. Yeah.
And put yourself in the shoes of the person on the other side, the customer.
Yes.
I know I struggle with that sometimes as well with the podcast. I will release an episode that I find very, very interesting, and sometimes not thinking enough about what's the user experience like on the other side.
Correct. I think it's something that you always are trying to work out. But as when I think about when I started the business, it's kind of like you understand who your target audience is, but it's very broad. And as your business grows and the longer you've been around, that sort of narrows down to really sort of understanding who your audience is and what that person looks like who's buying a product from you. But yeah, I think for us, it's I'm trying to think of your question that you asked me. Sorry, I've gone blank for a moment.
No, I'm just saying, if you put yourself in the shoes of your audience,
understanding your customer.
Yes.
Correct. It's a very difficult thing to understand what your customers see when they see your brand. So I mean, there's ways to try and work that out by doing sort of some research and trying to get information from people. But it is something that I think as your business matures, only then are you actually in a position to really understand who that customer is. And obviously their needs and wants also change. So you got to be innovating. You got to be trying to understand what they want.
Yeah.
And that can always be very difficult to do, but it is something that I think you can achieve. And we very much still on that journey, because once you've pinpointed exactly what that is, that person changes and the goalpost gets moved in terms of what they're after.
I think what you've done very well from an outside perspective is you found your niche.
Yes.
And a lot of people try to sell to everyone and then pick up who actually likes their brand or what they're putting out there.
Yes.
But as soon as you niche, then you're getting the exact customers that are right for you. And that's how, from my little experience, you'd maybe be able to get a bit of a more loyal following.
Yeah, exactly. I think when you've worked out what it is that differentiates you and you stick to your knitting and what you stand for within that space, I think it definitely makes that a little bit easier for sure. For sure.
So one thing you've done very well is networking. It sounds like in the beginning, rather than trying to tackle everything by yourself, you said, okay, cool. Let me reach out to my uncle. Let's find a copywriter. Let's find this person. It seems like that's helped you quite a lot.
Yes, definitely. I mean, business, a huge part of business is the networking side of things. And I think you're always selling yourself, and you're selling your business and your products, and just by having conversations with people, that networking starts to develop. I always try and have a coffee with whoever I can. I met a guy the other day who's got a private equity business, and he said, "Let's have a coffee." And I had a coffee with him yesterday just to discuss, how the private equity space works. Would we be interested in investment of sorts? And just having coffees with people like that, they might know somebody who might be, somebody that we could potentially, to reach out to, because maybe I've disclosed that we have a bit of an issue with something, and he's like, he can help you. And it's that networking which starts to develop, and it takes time. But if you're starting off a business, absolutely go and have as many coffees as you can with people. Say yes to as many meetings as you possibly can. You're going to be on the phone. I remember phoning corporates and saying, "Hi, Nick from 1701, got a gifting business. Can I come and see you?" And obviously often being declined. But once you get the opportunity, you gotta grab those, and slowly but surely your network does start to build. So I've been very lucky with that, and we just keep going.
How do you turn that off sometimes when, especially when it's just you and your brand in the beginning?
Yes.
How do you now turn that off to separate yourself from the brand? So a client is very unhappy with your product.
Yes.
How do you not take that personally?
Yeah, it's something that I've got better at. But being in the food space, no matter what food product you're producing, and even the likes of a Cadbury's, I promise you, they will also have issues with quality. They'll have customers who complain about certain things. It's just being in the food space, you're always going to have those coming through. And for me, in the early stages, I'd always take it very personally if somebody received a box of our nougat and they weren't happy with the texture of the product. And I'd get quite down on myself, because I'm like, why are we doing this wrong? It should be perfect. So you got this super, super high level of what you want people to experience. And occasionally people won't have that experience. And there's a number of issues. It could be the fact that it's winter time and their cupboard where they're storing the nougat is probably 13, 14 degrees. And our nougat needs to be kept at 20 to 23 degrees Celsius to give the best sort of chew experience.
This podcast has been a dream come true, and I need your help in order to grow the show. If you could do the smallest favor for me, it will be easier than making a cup of coffee. Please go and hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much.
We've had some times where we've had one of our big retailers that we have supplied in the past. We had a bit of a quality issue, and we've had to recall some of our product, and we ran the risk with potentially losing that customer because of the recall. And from a food safety perspective, in our factory, you've got, super, super high levels of quality checking that goes on all the time. Um, and we ended up having a bit of a scary moment where we thought we might lose one of our big retailers. And we managed to get through that. And we realized that sometimes, some third-party companies who assist us with some of our food safety stuff can also make mistakes. And in this regard, they had made a mistake, which we had to action and let our customer know, i.e. this retailer. And we did manage to get through it because we realized that the company who was assisting us had made an error on their side. But during that time, you thinking, "Oh my God, this could be a monumental failure for our business because this client is a big client of ours," and you think, "Oh my God, this could be the end of us." And it feels like you failed in that moment because you're waiting for this company to get back to you with the information that whether the product's actually fine or it's not fine. And thankfully, in this case, the product, there was actually no issue with it, and they had made an issue on their side. So for us, that felt like like we'd seriously failed, and it was a whole week of biting nails. Are we gonna, because if this falls apart, this could be a serious problem. But yeah, that's an example. I've been through some interesting times with the business. I've had a lot of stuff go on. I've been through a lot of interesting stuff, which has definitely put a little bit of hair on my chest. And yeah, there's been moments where you literally sit in there crying. You're like, "This is the end. What am I going to do after this?" And there's often times where I'm like, if I'm not selling nougat, what else would I be doing? And I don't really have an idea of what that is. So if tomorrow 1701 was to fall apart, it would be very, very daunting for me. But yeah, I think from the potential failures or the failures that you have had, it's having that endurance and trying to stay as optimistic and positive as you can, sticking to the things that you know how to do best, and the phoenix rises from the ashes, right? So yeah. You just can't give up. I think that's the most important sort of takeaway.
I think it's an awesome story.